All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Late Night Tips. In tonight's episode, we're going to look at how to set up your controller to work with the Octatrack. Let's get right into it. Okay, so one of the things that I always wanted to achieve with the Octatrack was to be able to control track volume independently of the active track. So you have your 8 data entry knobs, but they only work for the active track in here. So I wanted to have an external controller that allows me to control all the 8 tracks simultaneously without the necessity to activate a given track. And I know that there are solutions out there such as the Octacontrol, a dedicated volume controller for the Octatrack, but I always found them to be excessively expensive. And I was sure that there's a way to set it up using a controller. And yes, there is a way to do that. So what you need to achieve that is to have a MIDI controller that is capable of sending CC messages, control change messages, and obviously that has the possibility to set up what CC messages it is sending. So with some sort of an editor or to be able to set it up in hardware. That's the first thing you need to have. And the second thing is you need to be able to set a separate MIDI channel for ideally every single knob, or at least a group of knobs. If you have that, you'll be able to access all 8 tracks. So it can be any controller, really, but it needs to have those 2 functionalities in order for this to work. So my process to achieve that was, first of all, I wanted to think what parameters I wanted to be able to control externally. And for me, it was track volume, Q volume or Q level, because as you might know, I use the studio mode with my Octatrack. I also wanted to access parameter 2 of effect 1, which most usually would be a low-pass filter. And I also wanted to access the LFO parameter 4, which is LFO1 depth for those glitch effects. And muting is also nice to have. So first of all, I referred to the manual to find which CC messages correspond or which CC numbers correspond to those functions. And in the manual, it clearly states that track level is CC message 46, Q level is 47, effects parameter 2 is going to be CC 35, and the LFO parameter 4 would be CC message number 31. And so that's all very nice and sweet, but it's only one message. So it doesn't correspond to all 8 tracks. And how to achieve that is actually very simple. You go to your MIDI menu, you go to channels, and you set up a separate channel for every track on the Octatrack. So then if you are sending CC message 46 on channel 1, you're going to affect the volume of, see here, the volume of track 1. On channel 2, the volume of track 2, and so on. So yeah, that's how it works. So let's see this in action.
Station is ready.
All right, so yeah, that's how this works. So let me show you how this can be set up in the computer. So what you need to do is you need to connect your nanocontrol or download the software, open the editor, and make sure that it sees the device. And then the most important thing you need to do is you need to set the channels up so that every knob or every sort of group of knobs corresponds to a given MIDI channel. And you do it by clicking here. And you just select channel 1 in here, channel 2 in here, 3, 4, and so on and so forth, exactly how you have it on the Octatrack. And then you just select specific CC notes. So I mentioned that I wanted to have the filter on the knob, so it's 35, and it's 35 for each of those knobs. They just correspond on different channels, communicate on different channels. I wanted to have volume on the slider, so I have 46 in here, which is volume. I have MIDI, mute, and so on and so forth. But I mentioned that I also wanted to have the Q volume and LFO. And where I have that is essentially, I go to different scenes. And I have the LFO in here on scene 2. And I have the Q volume on scene 3. And on scene 4, I don't know why it says 2, but it's 3. And on scene 4, I have the LFO depth and Q level. So that's how I save it. I'm actually going to make these particular settings available in the link in the description box. So if you want to download my specific settings, feel free to do so. This is probably the cheapest controller you can get, but you have to keep in mind that the Octatrack has no USB in. It doesn't work as a USB host. So if you want to use this particular device, you also need to have a specific MIDI to USB host. I use iConnect MIDI, which is not the cheapest solution, but it works for me. But you need to find your own solution to make it work with the Octatrack, or just find a MIDI controller with DIN outputs that can do those particular things. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you very much for watching, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for more tutorials, more jams. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments as always. And if you have any requests for gear reviews, make sure to also leave them in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and take care.